Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our program, Tough Talking Thursday, always hosted here by Dennis Jar. Dennis is not here today. I'm sitting in, and I want to take this time to welcome all of our listening audience across the globe. Welcome again. This is Tough Talking Thursday. In today's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we are discussing the topic, political wranglings of today, dysfunction, normal politics, or what? Well, to break that all down and to discuss it all for you, our usual panelists are comfortably seated. Welcoming Call Family Focus on Liberia Chief Public Policy Analyst. Good to have you.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you for coming. Also, Mr. Mohammed Sharif is here. He's focused on Liberia political analyst. Mr. Sharif, it's good to have you. Welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
It's always good to be here, Anthony. Thank you.
All right. Well, this time he's joining us from Morovia. Mr. Wilmot Kunney, focused on Liberia chief political analyst, also known as CDC Pape, is seated. Mr. Kunney, it's good to have you. Welcome.
I'm happy to be here, still enjoying the love in the motherland.
All right. It's good that you are enjoying some love there in the motherland, but we'll have serious business to handle today. As you know, this is Tough Talking Thursday. Well, let me lay it out for all of us here to get started. The CPP is all over the place. From framework, document alteration or fingering. And now we see that the CPP is in court because Mr. Ure has taken Mr. Cummings and his political party to court. As though that is not enough, constituent members of the CPP are going through their own internal wrangling. The Liberty Party comes to mind. We are also hearing that the ALP voted to get out of the CPP. And in fact, talking about the ALP, there is a good number of partisans that have resigned and left. What is going on? Now, in the midst of all this, we also see that the CDC and the government of Liberia is not being held accountable because the CPP or the opposition bloc that should be doing that, they are fighting among themselves. And so what is going on? President Weah is playing, he's sinking, he's swimming in opulence without remorse. We have a bad economy on our hands. Liberia's biggest budget has been drafted, but it's infested with pork. What are the opposition doing? They are literally silent. I don't want to bore you about the Zogo population that is doubling by the day. Also, a Solicitor General is unhinged. We will talk about that. Last but not the least, the Liberian media displaying dishonesty. Diaspora talk show hosts buying views for bragging rights. Wow, is this the new standard? Cartoon journalism in Liberia? For all of this, we have our panel comfortably seated. Paul, let me come to you. Sorry, I have to lay it all out for all of us to know the grounds that we're going to cover in this edition of Tough Talking Thursday. Paul, may I start with you here? And what do you make of all this? How can you best describe all the things that are happening, especially in the opposition community?
I mean, it's obviously it's a power struggle, and that this is the kind of thing that happens when people struggle for power, and they're struggling for power just for the sake of gaining power, is how it looks to me. Because if there's some principle or common goal that you're working towards, there wouldn't be all of this confusion and bickering. When there's a goal that's bigger than a personality or a person, when people take a secondary role to a greater cause, typically you don't seem to have this kind of conflict. But as we said repeatedly on the show, there's been no consensus. There should have been a consensus before any type of coalition or collaboration was formed about who was going to head a ticket. If not, then there should be an open and free and transparent process. Everybody wants to play games. Everybody wants to engage in all kinds of, stuff. And the lack of sincerity has led us, down this road. I'm glad that it's happening early, right? We have a lot of time, relatively speaking, until we need to really worry about elections. So it's good that all this stuff is getting out of everyone's system now. And then hopefully, within the next few months, people can regroup and re-collaborate or reform new alliances and move forward towards 2023. One thing I think that everybody is in agreement on, including most of the people in CDC who are pretending not to be in agreement on, is that this administration is not doing the best that they could, and they failed in a lot of areas. And Liberia, tried this experiment and it failed. So people are ready to move forward to competence. People are ready to move forward to someone who's going to actually lead, be vocal and forceful in their leadership. So hopefully, we come to that over the next few months so that we can elect proper leadership.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kunney. You've been around for a little while now. Is this new? Is this at a whole new level? Or is this just about the same as it was in the past? The kind of wranglings that we see, especially in the opposition CPP. Mr. Kunney, are you with us? Mr. Kunney seems not to be hearing us, so let me come to Mr. Sharif. Mr. Sharif, is there a history of opposition suing one another as we see with constituent member of the CPP suing the other? Imagine UPP and LPP in court before the 1985 elections, or LAP and the Unity Party of the Grand Coalition going at it. Let us also imagine, say, Aberport versus Twanre, why President Turnbull rise a yard. My question here is, Mr. Sharif, can we find this level of dysfunction in our nation political history?
First, thank you, Anthony. It's an excellent question. So this is at a low right now. This kind of scorched earth tactics. It's really a low point in Liberian politics, and so I would want to believe that historians have a century later may look at this moment and study this moment and put this moment in its proper context. We saw, we know that in the 50s, for example, opposition political leaders, as far back, I can go as far back as the mid 40s, perhaps, with the rise of Tubman. There was this conglomeration of opposition political parties at the time. When these political parties were disallowed to contest these elections, keep in mind, Tubman was shrewd, using the court system to deny political parties, especially Deadwood Tour, from contesting in that election. Tubman felt that Tour, who was very popular with the Liberian masses, and that he wasn't going to take any chances. So he effectively used the court system to deny Tour. Of course, Tour went to court, and it wasn't successful. And then, of course, we saw in subsequent era, especially during the regime of Mr. Doe, we saw that the courts were very busy. A lesser known court known as the Probate Court, all of a sudden, the Probate Court became busy in the lead up to the 1985 election. So what individuals were doing was they would go to the Probate Court to deny the registration of certain, to try to deny the registration of certain political parties. They tried that with the Unity Party. They tried with the Liberia Action Party. They tried with the Liberia Unification Party of Mr. William Gabriel Pollock. As a result of international pressure, the regime backed down from using those individuals to deny these political parties. However, what you have happening around that time was parties like the United People's Party and the Liberian People's Party were labeled as communists, right? They were supposed to be communist sympathizers, and they were denied. So legitimate political parties were denied from contesting the election. So supposedly, the weaklings, those that were left in the field, were supposed to be weaklings. But to the greater surprise of the regime, those parties, for instance, Mr. Jackson F. Doe, it is believed, who actually is believed to have won that election, the regime was very shocked. And if you remember, the ballots, when the ballot counts were done, they had to take that somewhere else to recount the votes so that Emma Harmon could come up with some type of results, which wasn't really pleasing to the broad masses of the Liberian people. I know I've gone all around this, Anthony, forgive me, but we don't have a president when it comes to individuals within the same political coalition sniping and this sort of scorched earth tactics to destroy one another. And so this is new. This is definitely new, and it will be interesting to see as we go into 2023 how all of this is going to play out.
Thank you again. We just lost Mr. Kunney there. I think the Wi-Fi there, probably on LU campus, is not helping, or wherever he is, it's not helping at all. That is the case with our country, which is sad. Carl, you're listening to Mr. Sherry, I believe, quite clearly. My question, the crumbs of my question here is opposition leaders going at it to the point of taking the order to court. Have we seen that in our history?
Not in this manner, not in this context. And I don't see, if there's merit to the case, I don't see that there's anything wrong with it. I'm not, like I've said, I don't really know if the document was altered or not. If it was altered and Mr. Uri feels that he needs to take this to court, he has every right to do so. But again, my concern is the bigger picture. Does he really believe that Alex Cummings is a criminal and, did something criminal, intentionally to commit fraud? He's being accused of fraud. I mean, that's a pretty big accusation. And if Mr. Uri believes that Mr. Cummings committed actual fraud, then he's right to go to court if he truly believes that this is the case and if this case really has merits. So, on the other hand, if it's just, someone playing politics, then this is a disaster. This is horrible, and everybody should be outraged. My problem is, I haven't seen enough information to show that there's enough merit to this case, that it's such a strong case of fraud that Mr. Cummings needs to be exposed, that we're going to just, throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it's more important to convict someone of some horrible, act of fraud than it is to focus on the bigger picture, which is to try to put together a government and a group of leaders that are going to lift the country out of its current downward spiral into chaos. Anyone who's going to pretend that we're not in dire straits in Liberia is not being truthful. We're looking at simple things like putting on a program not working properly. We're looking at, simple things like, schools functioning like they should. Things are just not working as they should. We're celebrating some of the most basic things that you should expect. I mean, I would be appalled if someone built market stalls in Ghana and everybody was celebrating. But we've gone down to we're at such rock bottom. We're at such rock bottom when it comes to governance and leadership. That's something like a market stall. We're not even talking about bringing a major manufacturing plant and employing low-skilled people who aren't, able to read and write like they do in Ethiopia and other countries. Bring these manufacturing jobs and employ thousands of people. No, we're talking about market stalls that these people are going to have to lease, and everybody's dancing in the streets because we've hit such a low, we've hit such rock bottom, that these now become things to celebrate. It's sad. It's really, really sad. And the opposition is taking, one of its leaders to court. It's divisive. But like I said, I'm not an expert on legal matters. I don't know too much about how much merit this case has, so I don't really completely dismiss it. But from where I sit, it looks frivolous. If there's merit to it, and Mr. Uri and his team feel that, that Mr. Cummings is in fact a criminal, they have a right to take him to court. But like I said, I'm not privileged to some information that would validate this, claim against Mr. Cummings.
Thank you. Mr. Kunney, I hope you can hear us now. Mr. Kunney, can you hear me?
It's a conspiracy, a CDC conspiracy.
Mr. Kunney, we can.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Oh, you're hearing us? Okay.
All right.
All the CDC,
that is good.
CDC money.
Be part of the discussion. I hope that will be possible. Let me come to you, Mr. Kunney. From the way we see this code, and I want us to talk about the political side of it and not dwell on the legality that much, because we are not lawyers and we shouldn't pretend. Looking at it politically, it's obvious that Mr. Uri, in this political fight, he's ahead of Mr. Cummings here. He's out of 4 steps ahead of him. He's trying to bring him down. He's doing everything to make him look like a criminal, politically speaking. In fact, Mr. Uri is not on the ballot. He's not going to be on the ballot. It's like he's fighting a proxy war for somebody who wants to be president. So obviously, if Cummings cannot beat Uri at this game, can he beat the one for whom Uri is fighting? Talk to me about the politics of it.
Well, look, I don't know for whom Uri is fighting, but the entire thing.
He's fighting for Bwaka. If you don't know, let me tell you.
really some profound issues. It brought some profound issues, Sonny. First of all, I like to quote Mr. Alexander Cummings. Again, he got some beautiful quotes. The best predictor of today's behavior is past behavior. And the best predictor of future behavior is today's behavior. I mean, I'm paraphrasing him.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at what is obtaining in the opposition, it is an eye-opener as to how, God forbid, if this opposition...
I don't think this is going to go well.
This is indicative of exactly what's wrong in Liberia. He's wanting to come out and praise the government. We've got fiber optic cables in Liberia and the internet keeps going out. What's the problem? Yeah. It's an electricity problem. It's not the internet. We have fiber optic cables that were brought across the Atlantic. We feed Sierra Leone and we feed Ivory Coast fiber optic cables. It was brought straight to the beach in Sincor. I was there when it happened. So there's no reason. They have some of the best internet facilities in Liberia, but you need electricity. You need stable electricity. And this is some of the man keeps cutting in and out because this is an example of a failure of the current administration. Yeah. This is failure.
He's back
There's
with
no
us,
reason
Mr. Kunney.
That Mr. Kunney's internet shouldn't be working.
Mr. Kunney, can you continue?
It's true.
You see the hardship? What if the students are trying to get on a UL to study, to download books? They can't.
Mr. Kunney, I don't think we can continue with you. The internet is so poor that our voices are delayed getting to you. And so that's going to create a very slow process here. I don't think it's going to be the audience.
Can he call in?
Yeah, maybe that would be better.
Yeah, maybe you can call in. Let me give you.
Maybe you use Ben and Yuri's Lone Star and call.
Oh, stop it. give him some data. Give him some data, Anthony.
No. I think he's strong enough to get his own data. Let me send him the WhatsApp number to call.
Give him data. How much you need?
Yeah.
Let us know now.
I don't know why we're talking.
Then you should call the WhatsApp number.
That a pro internet, Bobby.
Go ahead. Let's try again.
The men are in the mansion right now. The last
time
I
was
the mansion was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was saying, what I was saying though, what we're saying here is how this opposition, God forbid, if they have the chance to rule our country, the disorganization, the disintegration, the bickering, they go into court. I mean, that brawl will be in broad daylight because now they will be fighting for real jobs. Right now, there is no job available, and they're fighting tooth and nail to beat up on one another. If friends taking friends to court, just imagine what they would do to their opponent. So, but there are some pretenses that has been uncovered.
This is not going to go well, and I don't think we can continue with this because there'll be too much interruption. So, to my question, Benina Ure is obvious, politically speaking, is few steps ahead of Cummings here. And Cummings' opponent is actually Bouaka. He's yet to meet Bouaka in this race, if we can put it that way. And somebody who is fighting a proxy war is getting him down in the mud, and he's struggling here politically. Mohammed, let's start with you there.
Yeah, it's getting him in the mud, and you know, Benina doesn't care if he gets muddy. Cummings does care about this mud that's been splattered all over him, and so listen. So I just talked about the probate court's role, the pivotal role of the probate court, um, or the prominent role, I should say, of the probate court in 1985, or in the lead up to 1985. Those were proxies. There was a counselor, Roger Steele, who was representing these objectionists, right? I mean, they were for very frivolous reasons. You have individuals, French individuals, who were not even, who claimed that they weren't even part of any political party. They were coming out of nowhere, claiming that they're just ordinary concerned citizens, putting wrinkles in the way of these opposition parties at the time, in the lead up to 1985. So you have a repeat, to me, of something that looks like it. Again, as Paul mentioned, me too. I'm not a legal expert to be able to say yes or no if this issue is to be adjudicated or not. But it seemed to me, your question, which is well in place, it seemed to me that it's a proxy war, because Mr. Ure is not really going to be contesting. He's not going to be a contender, at least in the presidential race.
Mm-hmm.
And so, taking this issue to court, if he has reason to believe that he was harmed personally, then yes, he has a legitimate reason to go to court. And Mr. Cummings must then defend himself. And Mr. Cummings also has to be very careful, because, if he's seen as someone who is inviting outsiders to fight his fight, if he's seen as someone who cannot fight his own fight and has to rely on lobbyists to fight his fight, I do think that is some kind of trouble,
right,
for him. That this is just the beginning of the race, and you can't even fight this small fight. You have to call in your big the big guns from international, from everywhere, to come and fight this fight. I don't think it looks well for him in
right,
that way. And so that's how I look at this. He, by his own admission, he is claiming that the lawsuit has made him popular with the Liberian people. I don't know what data he has. He said the lawsuit has made him popular. So if that is the case, then you ride that popularity to the fullest. Why aren't you riding that popularity? Why are you now behaving as if this
and
is...
Mr. Sheriff, to that point, I'm not cutting you off, talking about popularity. Then we should see that when he goes to court. And anytime he goes to court, we see a very small number of people gathering. Compare that with maybe somebody at Kunney with some kind of popularity going to court. You will see the crowd, even if it can be permitted at the court, when that person goes to maybe the political headquarters, we'll see the number. But actually, that's not the case here. So what is the popularity he's talking about?
Right. I mean, actually, the first day there was a large number. There was a large number of people on the first day, and it was even really difficult for him to get through the line of supporters and well wishers that were just.
That was in this very small space.
Right, but there was still considerable number. But Anthony, you're not going to look at the number at the Temple of Justice to use that to say, I have a popularity all across Liberia, just looking at the number at the Temple of Justice. I mean, this could all be family members and friends and whatnot who are coming to see what's going on. There may be onlookers. There were people who were curious. People wanted to go into the courtroom. There were people fighting to go in. So you can't use those standards, and that's the problem that we have in Liberia. We most time we don't have the evidence. We don't do our homework to know that certain things, like you're running in a race and you haven't taken any polls, and you say, well, we're definitely going to win. Who tells you that you're going to win? Now, who is telling him that this has made him enormously popular with the Liberian people, because
Thank
I
you.
can submit to you, he has no numbers to back up that claim.
Thank you. Mr. Kunney, let's try this again. Talking about this case, the political aspect of it, there are reports that Cummings is using his means and the clout, to twist this thing in his favor, since he may not likely get that twist in court. So he's using his clout in the international space. He's not against Bwaka yet. He's not against Wia yet. He's against somebody who is like a proxy, and he's running to the international community, if that information is correct, to get past this proxy. Is he ready for prime time yet?
No, look, whatever you're doing is really irrelevant from where I stand. He is a struggling politician. He came out of the gate that he was going to do things differently, but every direction he went, it appears like he was doing things the way he met them, and he wanted to be the beneficiary of the very system that he decided to criticize. But the point I was making, and I hope I don't get caught up again, is that what you see is the disintegration you will see in the opposition government. Should they, but God forbid, have the opportunity to rule this country, the fighting will be very brutal. Right now, there is no job, and you see how they are fighting. How much more when jobs are on the table? It's going to be dog-eat-dog kind of fight that you will have in that kind of conglomeration. What is also clear is this case exposes the pretense of the opposition. There's the opposition that have politicized the judiciary. They've decried the judiciary. Our judiciary is useless. It's being politicized. And all of a sudden, they're now running to the very judiciary that they say has no credibility to solve their problems. I mean, this is the height of hypocrisy. This is the judiciary they've politicized all throughout. And in judicial activities, there will be decisions that will come that people will not like. There will be decisions that people will like. That is the normal functioning of a judiciary. But this opposition has taken what is the normal functioning of a judiciary to politicize the judiciary, to criticize the judiciary. Whenever a decision don't go their way, it is the president that is manipulating the judiciary. How the hell you know that the president is manipulating the judiciary and now you go before the very judiciary? It is the same pretense, the same deception that they used when Justice Johnny was removed from office with the vote of opposition senators. And yet instead they say, oh, the president, the president, the president. Then the other thing that has been clearly exposed in this drama is the complete absence of leadership on the part of Ambassador Burkhardt. This is the man that has been portrayed as experienced, knowledgeable, that can solve issues. When you become president, issues don't wait for you. Some are thrown on you. Some, you don't plan for them. They are thrown on you. And the crisis in the opposition started under the direct leadership of Ambassador Burkhardt. Where is the leadership? Where is the maturity? Where is all of these attributes that people come to talk about? Are these things in himself? They cannot be manifested in other areas. Where is the leadership? The opposition is disintegrating under the direct supervision of Ambassador Joseph Burkhardt. The mature person, the grown up, the experienced, the knowledgeable, the humble. Where is he? Where is the leadership? The Liberty Party is in crisis. Then two of the constituent party are in court. And now only that the leadership is absent, he is completely mute. No, nothing. Is this the way? Is this the kind of leader we want to solve the problem? Meanwhile,
seriously,
while the
Mr. Kunney?
opposition is in disarray, while the opposition is in disarray, this government is working. The road constructions are continuing. And in fact, we have one of the most impressive records from the WAEC. 82.2% of Liberian students that start the WAEC pass. Can you imagine what that number was when our educational system was declared a mess? I'm telling you, this year result, 82.2%
Doctor
of
numbers.
Liberian students that start the WAEC pass. This is the direct result of change in policy, the payment in WAEC fee, the payment in WAEC fee, the extra classes for students, and all of these things are happening. Look,
Thank you.
I'm here, I'm on the ground. I'm seeing the beginning of construction for the Rawafi Road. Can you imagine? The intelligentsia says they built a modern airport for us and they left 1940 roads for us to use. So now we are trying to modernize those roads. The president is restoring dignity to the office of the presidency. The renovation of the executive mansion is now online. So while that disintegration is continuing, President George Manewia is working for the Liberian people.
Thank you.
One round victory is loading, and
I know you're going to come to that one round victory. That will be the ending of your.
He told George Weah, right? He told George Weah.
Thank you. But Carl, before you come in though, Kunney says something that is true. Let's look at the opposition. I mean, this is the opposition that's supposed to replace George Weah. They are not in power yet. Look at the fight. Even should they magically bring this thing together and get into government when they should have power, when they should have access to state coffers, I can just imagine what's going to happen. Your take?
Well, the first thing is I'm just amused that the unintelligentsia has the audacity to talk about the opposition being silent when the president of the Republic of Liberia is completely silent, except when he's on the sidelines of a football game or when he's joined to play sports or he's singing a song. Where has the leadership been that he has displayed? He walked away after instigating a fight on the SKD field where standing on the sideline heckling the players until they got so distressed they started fighting each other, and he walks away. You want to talk about silence and not speaking? So, that's hypocrisy of the unintelligentsia. So one of the things I also want to point out is the unintelligentsia wants to try to make it look like everyone in the opposition is some blanketed slate. The bottom line is Liberian people are going to run the government. Liberian people are going to be empowered. All the technocrats that the unintelligentsia sidelined that have run out of Liberia and are taking their expertise to other countries because they don't want to be bothered. The brain drain needs to be reversed. And those are some of the things the unintelligentsia isn't looking at. They're not thinking about, hey, where are all of our doctors? What can we do to bring these doctors to come back to Liberia to work? I mean, they're overworking. I think we've got one of our best doctors is overworked, Dr. Doe. What are they doing to make sure that when his tenure is up, he doesn't run away and go live in Europe or the United States with all of his skills? What are they doing to retain the talent? They're sitting down here talking about the opposition in waiting. It is going to be about the development of Liberia is going to be about ideology, and it's going to be about finding the best people to do the work that's necessary to uplift the country from its current state. And the unintelligentsia doesn't see that. They think that you need to be unintelligent, dishonest. You need to break down systems. You need to fluff up numbers. You need to lower standards so it can look like people pass Wyatt. You need to do all of these things to paint some false picture of success. You need to over-celebrate, mundane, sub-mediocre accomplishments and blow them up as if it's something great, as if, the special ed kid had spelled their name correctly. We should all clap. This is not what a country is. So the opposition, to get to your question, and Sony, yes, there's a lot of chaos in the people in CPP are all fighting. That is not really as important as when the people are ready to vote. Who are the candidates going to be? What is their agenda going to be? What is their overall vision for the country going to be? I don't necessarily believe that this is it, that these are the only people that are going to run for president. What I do know is that Mr. Cummings, Mr. Wadei, the two that have said they wanted to run, Mr. Gonglo, these people will make better choices. All of them have the capacity to make better choices for the Liberian people than what we see is happening right now. So to have the unintelligentsia mock people who are in a disagreement, some of them, I mean, I don't see Councillor Gonglo involved in any of this, but he's also opposition. And there are others who are going to run for president. You still have this guy, Mr. Cassell, running around. All of these people are options for the Liberian people. They need to bring their agenda forward and talk about how they're going to do the right things for people. So this, trying to put people down and call them intelligentsia like it's a bad word. I'd rather be called intelligentsia than unintelligentsia. How about that? How about it's better to be intelligent than not? And I hope that Liberian people don't think that there's something cool about not being smart. There's something cool about not being educated. There's something cool about not having command over your thoughts and ideas and your future. That's wrong. That is the property of every Liberian child. Every Liberian child should be encouraged to be intelligent. Every Liberian child should be encouraged to be a problem solver, to be a technocrat. We need you. We need your thoughts. We don't need dumbed down WIAC exams that are lower, way below standard than what is taken in the rest of West Africa. I don't know if you all know this, but that's unfortunate. That stuff needs to be fixed. We need to have our children taking the same exams that are taken in Nigeria and Ghana. Then we'll talk about success. But they're not. They had to dumb down the questions and dumb down the standards as if we are also not these brilliant Africans that they have in these other countries. They're not better than us. Their children are not more intelligent than our children. Their children don't deserve more difficult exams than our children. Our children deserve more challenging schools. Our children deserve to have something better to look forward to than freaking market stalls when they graduate, to go lease a market stall and go sell bitterball. They deserve something better than that.
And Carl, talking about the wire results, I think Kunney is talking about the results before the most recent one. That was, reportedly in which the students did well. The most recent one, very disastrous. So I think he needs to get his facts straight, because what I read about the most recent result, I believe he said it's not in the CDC favor either. So I don't know what he's talking about. But Mr. Sharif,
and even if it was, the exams that our children take are not at the WIAC that is being given in Liberia is a lower standard than what the rest of the children take in the subregion. That's important to note. And so that is something that we need to overcome. Instead of like bragging, in your own homes, you have standards for your children. You're not going to have your child taking substandard classes, except where they need the special ed assistance, but where your child isn't really, developmentally disabled, but then they're giving your child substandard work, and the work that they're doing isn't comparable to other kids. You would be outraged as a parent.
Thank you.
Why is it we don't have the same regard for the average child in Liberia? We should be outraged. They deserve better schools. They deserve to be prepared better, and they deserve to be tested at the same level as their counterparts in our sister countries.
Mr. Kunney, I see that you are hungry to respond. Look.
I think what we need to teach our children is to distinguish intelligence from intelligentsia elite. Intelligentsia elite, they carry around this sense of entitlement. Even in the face of massive failure, they feel entitled. That's not intelligence. There is a vast difference between intelligence and the intelligentsia elite, and our children understand that. The intelligentsia elite always feel, even in the face of massive failure, they have that sense of entitlement to lead, to rule. This is why they sat down 12 years without repairing the executive mansion when only one room had a fire. They put the mansion as a cash cow for corruption, and now the mansion is being repaired. They minimize it. That's operate.
Mr. Kunney, let's go a little bit on the education issue you raised there.
That distinction is important. That distinction is important. No one is against intelligence. What we are against is this mentality This mentality of some elite that feel that even though we know nothing, we can't even rule, we can't even govern, we can't even put a coalition together.
Mr.
But
Kunney,
just give us power.
Mr.
It's
Kunney,
what
before I
we
get to
against,
Mohammed
and that's
here,
what we're teaching our children.
Mr. Kunney,
Never
before I get to
succumb,
Mohammed here,
never succumb to entitlement.
Mr.
Never
Kunney,
succumb to entitlement.
Mr. Kunney, quickly, before I get to Mohammed
Yeah.
here, you cited this wire result as this huge victory. That may presuppose also
It is
that.
comparatively better. The results, the wire result.
Are you suggesting that the educational system is better out of a sudden now because of
the policies are changing? Policies produce results. Policies produce results. The wire results are comparatively better than what they were 12 years ago.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sharif, let's go back.
They can minimize it all they want, but
yeah, let's try to conclude on the CPP thing, and then we go to something else. And looking at all the leaders in the CPP and the let me ask this question quickly. One may be inclined to believe that this cannot be the doing of one political party, one political leader, one political party chairman. How is each of these parties and leaders responsible for this despicable chaos that we are witnessing today, Mr. Sharif?
I mean, what I will say here, I mean, everything I will say about that will be, I will consider to be subjective. But before I answer that question, Mr. Kunney, persistent attack on the intelligentsia, or the so-called intelligentsia, is very disingenuous at best, because his leader, the leader of his political party, George Weah, is very busy trying to amass degrees, doctorate degrees, right, that he didn't even earn. And now, he's called Dr. Weah. And you have the vice president, who calls also herself Dr. Joy Howard Taylor. These people didn't earn these degrees.
Right.
These degrees around, right? Some of them, claim to have, bachelor's degrees and master's degrees that are very questionable, Anthony. And now they're adding doctorate degrees to that. Honorary doctorate degrees. They're working. A president of the republic, right? The president of the Republic of Liberia is walking around, Anthony, with an honorary degree, and that must be his title. That is in the news. Seriously, this is in the news. This is broadcast in the news. And if you go to the podium, the president appears in your town or wherever, and you are given the opportunity to speak. You're the superintendent, or you are one of the speakers at that occasion. You are told to call this man Doctor. And you have to say Doctor. And everyone else follows that stupidity. And this is how low we have come. And so don't mind what he's saying tonight about this attack on the intelligentsia. The leader of his party is fighting so hard to join this club that he's attacking. If there is a club, right, that he's attacking. So listen, I'll take that with a grain of salt. So to your question, yes, they are each responsible. And again, this is subjective. I think they're each responsible. Someone is supposed to step up. If there's anything that I would agree with Wilmot on, is that someone is supposed to step up and be the adult in the room to say, guys, cut this out. Let's work together. You don't have to like one another, but you can work together for a common purpose. I'll tell you, Anthony, when they signed the framework agreement, the day they signed the framework agreement, this was a Zoom conference. That Zoom conference is one of the beautiful conferences that you will ever see, you know, Liberian political organizations will ever put together. Go look for it. Go and look at that. The speeches were crisp, they were brilliant. And you know what Bernard Ura said? Bernard told Cummings that Cummings, you have to have a thick skin. This game is tough. You're going to have critics. And I'm going to even be one of your critics. Like he said that. He said, I am going to be one of your critics, but we have to work together. It was brilliant. JNB spoke. Cummings spoke. They were all brilliant. Yombly Conga Lawrence spoke. It was a brilliant display of sheer political skills. To now, over a year later, to now see that, you know, the synergy has now dissipated. That unity that held them together has not dissipated. It's just sad. Yes, they're each responsible, and I think that it's not late. They can get back in the room and put this thing back together. You know, it's really not late. I don't think, if they have the interest of the Liberian people at heart, and I think that we should discuss that also tonight, because if these guys who are in court now, or, you know, both litigants, if they have the interest of the Liberian people at heart, I don't care what it is, they can put this behind them and move on, work together, forge a common bond in the interest of the Liberian people.
Thank you. We just been joined by Wadei Powell. Welcome to Talking Thursday. It's good to have you. We were expecting you. So it's good you are here. You are a member of the opposition Liberty Party, where things are not pretty. But we're talking about a CPP. Is there a CPP, Madam Powell, to save or to be saved as we speak, given what has been going on?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question. So let me answer it as a general question before speaking to CPP. In life, any situation is salvageable, right?
Okay.
But what is required to salvage a situation is truth and honesty.
I'm listening.
And now, in which certain allegations have been made. These allegations were made several months ago, and it went through a process, what I call a kangaroo process of investigation, as opposed to the process that was outlined in the framework document. Had we used the process to mitigate this case that is outlined in the framework document, we would have never gotten this to this point. But the fact that we are here is not by mistake. It was intentional. Every move along the way was intended to get the CPP to this point. The seemingly disintegration of the CPP was not by mistake. It was orchestrated. And so we are where we are today. Now, in order for you to salvage any situation, people have to be on the same team, on the same book, and believe in the same things. And so at this point, where you have one party in the CPP that is saying the framework document that is lodged at the National Elections Commission is not a framework document that they are willing to live with. You also have that same party saying that there were alterations, illegal alterations to this document, which the court is now hearing. And you have another party that is standing by and silent on the matter. Either way, to speak up and say either this is so or this is not so. I think that people who are close to this case and who actually know what has happened need to be brave enough to stand up and say what has happened.
Would it be though?
This goes specifically to the Unity Party, and specifically to the standard bearer of the Unity Party. At some point, straddling the fence cannot be the position, the permanent position, right? The Unity Party has to speak up or weigh in on what has happened over the last several months. Liberty Party has weighed in. We have made our position very clear. And when I say weigh in, I don't mean to say pick the side of the Liberty, but state what your position is. You cannot keep straddling the fence and wading in the water.
Right.
This is critical. So you're either gonna
Madam Powell, if I may here, so this is now like a kind of political competition. The business is being done here, and someone wants to benefit. So I'm talking about the Unity Party or Bwaka team or Team Bwaka. Say, well, if they are doing this, it benefits me. Why should I step in? After all, it may be playing to my advantage here. Now we see Cummings in court. They need clean hands. I don't think people can say it anymore. This benefits Bwaka, isn't it? So why should he talk?
So let me just say this, right? Mm-hmm. There are personal benefits in this arena, and there are national benefits, right? While it may benefit Ambassador Boyka personally in his quest for the presidency and the Unity Party in that same quest, what does it do to the opposition as a whole? What does it do to our national political space? And I think that those are some of the considerations that political parties need to be thinking about when they make the decision as to whether or not to put first what their personal agenda is as opposed to what the national agenda is. Now, of course, if someone else is fighting a fight out there and it benefits me personally, I guess, okay, well, I'm not involved in a fight, so I'm not going to say anything. But that's a selfish position to take because you're not looking at the larger picture. You're not looking at the bigger picture, right? And so for me, anybody who is looking at the larger picture and who has been involved as intimately with the entire process from the beginning to the end needs to stop straddling the fence and stop being silent on the matter.
All right.
You're not a wallflower.
Thank you. Thank you. And Carl, talking about the bigger picture, let's talk about that. This political marriage was meant to be a force to defeat President Weah, and that would be easier for them if they, the way they have come together, have maintained to stay together. We don't see that anymore. So any breakaway is a takeaway from the two candidates, the two men who we know are desperately wanting to be president. It's a smart politics on the part of either of them to allow their fight to continue, taking everything from them and making President Weah look good here.
Absolutely not. I don't think this case benefits Boykai or Cummings. And some people say that it does, but there's no way that Boykai or anyone in opposition, for that matter, is going to benefit from this. Maybe some opposition member who's not affiliated with CPP, some dark horse sitting somewhere that hasn't, galloped into the limelight yet, is benefiting from this chaos. But it certainly is not any of the members of the CPP. This has made the coalition political parties look terribly disjointed and disunited, and for obvious reasons, right? So we talked about this a little bit earlier before Wadei came on. There has to be a glue to hold people together beyond we want to unseat George Weah, because then the question becomes which one of us is going to unseat George Weah, and then the bickering starts. So if there's an ideological basis for everyone coming together, we're all democratic socialists, or we're all radical left wing, communist, whatever it is that we think we believe, and whatever we believe the solution to lift Liberia out of poverty is, we should be agreeing on some of these fundamental principles. And I don't really see people talking about ideology and what their beliefs are for the country. Do they buy into the fundamental reason, the core reason Liberia was established? I mean, this is the only time. It's not like, we don't already have a blueprint, to work towards. We have politicians, instead of talking about a great future picture and painting a vision, they're talking about administrative things, which is very disappointing and hard to galvanize supporters around. I hear politicians saying things like, oh, we're going to come in and we're going to make sure that we fight corruption. We're going to put justice. Of course you're going to do that. That's your job. That's your duty. That's your fiduciary responsibility as a leader. Let's talk about other things. What do you think about the vision of our education system? Do you think that we should be pushing our children towards an African-centered curriculum, as opposed to this brainwashed nonsense that we're feeding these kids every day? Do we think that we need to try to build the self-esteem of the country? And how are you going to do that? How are you going to erase tribal divides? How are you going to erase, the classism? Is that your goal to erase it, or is it your goal to exacerbate it? We don't know, because nobody's really talking about the things that evoke a sense of following. The reason Weah was able to evoke people to follow him is because he's a star. It's not because he had any vision. It's because we're all fans of George Weah World Best. We grew up, we spent our young adult years, cheering for Weah. So he didn't have to say anything. They don't have the luxury that Weah had, which is to ride on his celebrity. These people, these men, right now it's all men, who are running for office, need to light the fire of the Liberian people. They need to light that fire of hope and energize them. And I see that's a great failure on the part of the opposition. We're spending too much time bickering about who and not what and not how. And it would make me feel a lot better commenting on this if it was really an ideological divide. It isn't. I don't think that Cummings has a different worldview really than JNB. I haven't heard it anyway. I haven't heard anything articulated that would make me believe that these men have, disagreements on how they see the world. They have, different skill sets, different experiences, but their vision for Liberia seems to be pretty much the same from what they've articulated. So I don't, Mr. Uri, when he was running for president, said some of the same stuff in 2017 that I hear everybody say. So it is what it is, Antonia. I'm really hoping, I just want to get one last thing out. I'm really hoping that this will pass. It's still relatively early. And, something good will come out of it.
Thank you. And let me come to you, Mr. Sherry. Let me give you a scenario.
Before you move on,
Okay.
if I may interject, there's something that Cole just said, and I want to piggyback off of that. And she began by saying that what's going on right now doesn't make anybody look good. And if you look at the reality of it, she's absolutely right. And so this is why it's so important to understand or to dig deeper than just what's happening on the surface, right?
Right.
It doesn't benefit anybody in the opposition. So the question now is, who does it benefit? There is a beneficiary. Exactly. There is a beneficiary of what's happening right now. And so when you come to the conclusion that Weah and the current administration is a beneficiary of it, then you start to ask yourself, well, then who's behind it? And who's the mole, and who's the person that is being used to divide the opposition? Come on, guys, let's elevate the conversations as to instead of just asking about what's happening in CPP, let's try to start asking questions about why, because it's in the whys that you get to understand the dynamics that are at play. And the dynamics that are at play, as Cole just said, has absolutely nothing to do with ideological differences.
No.
All has to do with a power play. It all has to do with individuals that have, their foot in both sides of the sandboxes.
You're leaving it out there. Please bring it. You're
it
trying
has
to leave
become
it out there. Please bring it. What are you talking about? So let me ask you
We
the question.
want,
Yeah.
we want to know the boxes.
Who are the individuals you are suspecting
it has
or
become
maybe in the
very
know?
clear.
Mhm.
It has become very clear that
Mhm.
Benana Ure is working for the CDC.
How you know that, and what can you
Because
point
every
to?
action that he has taken has been towards the goal of breaking the CPP up and breaking
Well, we
up.
were told he was working for Boaka, and now he has switched to we are. How
See,
come?
you got to be able to differentiate between the smoke screen and the reality, right? What he was doing seemingly benefited Boyka. That's not necessarily the same as that.
So now he's going to where? Is it that Boaka is not running
I
anymore or
don't think that
intends
it's
not to
ever.
run?
I don't think that it's ever that he's going to boycott. I don't think that it was ever a point in time that he wasn't. I mean, that he going to WIA. I don't think there was ever a point in time that he wasn't with WIA. I said this a long time ago.
All right.
Can I just come in quickly?
And you don't. For me, I tend to not listen to what people say. I tend to listen to what they do.
All right.
Their actions tell you more about what their intentions are.
Can I just come in quickly before you go to Sherry?
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Wadei want us to elevate the discussion, and she made mention about Ure working for WIA. And so let's take that for a moment. If Ure is working for WIA, then I think another person who is working for WIA is Boykai. Because every decision that Ure has made to create chaos in the CPP has been endorsed by Boykai.
I thought you said Boycott is not talking again. Now you say he's endorsing everything.
Perhaps through his silence.
Yeah, it was Ure who detected forgery in a document.
Alleged.
The alleged forgery. And Mr. Boyka immediately bought that narrative that indeed there is forgery. It was Ure who brought the concept of black voting. And immediately Mr. Boyka adopted that as a decision-making vehicle. It was Ure who proposed that, in fact, let's break the whole CPP up. Let everybody go on their way. The Unity Party.
I don't know if that's correct.
I'm coming. The Unity Party is looking at that seriously to walk away from the CPP to establish what they now call CUP. So I'm just elevating your point. If we take your point out, Ure is working for George Weah, then obviously Omen Boyka is working for Weah. And this is a strange thing I find about this.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney.
Collaboration.
Hold on, I have to go to Sharif here. I'll come back to you, Wadei. Mr. Sharif.
Okay.
This begs the question whether or not Mr. Boyka is actually running, to be president. There was report that he was in Ghana, and Cummings were there at the same time, and there was conversation about trying to buy him out. And now we see that Benina Ure, who has been in Boyka's corner, he's being accused of working for the president. That means Mr. Boyka might not be running for president here. So Ure, who is good at going where the gravy is going where he sees the gravy going now.
I mean,
running or not?
Of course, Mr. Boyka is running for president. Of course he is. I mean, what is the incentive for him not to run for president?
Cash, money, retirement.
Money and retirement. I mean, he is one of the leading opposition candidates. If you listen to speculators, he has a better chance more than any other opposition candidates out there. I mean, you like it or not, that's the case. So he belongs to the biggest opposition political party. So what is the incentive for him to step out of this race? So all of this discussion about him now going to run, I don't believe that. That doesn't seem to be the situation. I mean, they had a discussion. He admitted that they had a discussion, but that was, to me, it was a discussion they have to have had, and I think it was a good thing that he came out to admit that yes, we had a discussion. One of them came out, I forgot who it was, came out to admit that they had a discussion in Ghana. To me, that was a good thing. That doesn't show me that he's trying to step aside. And just going by what's going on in court, I mentioned earlier at the top of the show how the court system, our judicial system, has been used from time and time and again as a tool by the executive branch of government. This happened in the 40s and 50s. It happened in the 80s, and it is suspected or alleged that what is happening now, that the executive branch has a role to play in all of what's going on. You cannot discount the role of the executive. Time and time and again on this platform, I have cast doubt on the independence of the Liberian judicial system. The Liberian judicial system is corrupt, along with the executive system. I mean, the three branches of government that we have, the fulcrum on which this nation is supposed to sit, these are corrupt systems. So the judicial branch, and if you don't believe me, just listen to Associate Justice Kaba. Associate Justice Kaba, who was appointed by George Weah. Justice Kaba said that the judicial branch, in his own words, he said, is the black cow in the government. I don't know what he meant by black cow.
There's no question that I don't mean to interrupt you. I wanted to stay on the topic yet a little more. Talking about the CPP still, we see that the Unity Party is enjoying a share of this internal wrangling, even though it's not out there for many people to see, but those of all who listen to the players, who ask them questions, they be privy to hear some information. And then we're talking about CUP, collaboration of Unity Party. So let's talk about this. The ALP voted, and the vote is for them to leave. Does that, finalize their departure from the CPP legally? And then in keeping with the CPP, framework, and then talking about the CUP, is this thing happens and the two men go their separate way in the election? Don't you think this will put President we are in a much better position to win? Because in the end, whoever makes it to the second round might not get the support of the other, given the fight and how bitter it has been.
Are you talking to me?
No. Let Wadei take that one, because she's a player there. If I can say that.
So I think one of the things that we need to start doing when we talk about opposition is to disabuse our mindset that opposition is only Liberty Party, Unity Party, ALP, and ANC. Right?
Exactly.
That is not the totality of opposition in Liberia. There's so many other political parties out there, so many other independents, so many others that are part of opposition. So let's understand that.
Okay.
Let's also understand that the initial intent of the CPP was to bring together more opposition groups. It was never intended to just be for political parties. But once again, because of a lack of willingness to bring more people into the room, because of the threat that it presented perhaps to individual agendas, maybe some of that didn't happen. But there's always an opportunity to widen the camp and open up the umbrella. The question now here on whether or not the Unity Party, I mean the ALPs, vote to leave the CPP is the end of the process. That is no. The ALP executive committee voted to leave, but there's a process that's prescribed by the CPP framework document that a political party needs to go through to actually effect leaving the CPP. That process begins with a simple letter to the CPP, and that has not even happened yet. There are other things involved in that process, and so that's why when people are having this conversation about ALP leaving the CPP, I tend to not want to delve into it too much, because the first step that you need to do if you really want to leave the CPP is to put it in writing. Not just as a decision that came out of your executive committee, but as a formal communication to the CPP. And even a conversation about the Unity Party having talks about
leaving
the CPP. Listen, until a process is formalized, it's all talk.
Okay.
Right? So until I see a letter from the ALP and until I see a letter from the Unity Party to the CPP, I consider all of that just, conversation that's out there. It's not formalized.
All right. Sharif?
Yes.
So with all this, we see President Weah, he's swimming, he's sinking. He even sang for Kalasco for his wedding. And now he's playing. He's playing for Mine County of Grand Creek. We didn't invite him, by the way. He forced himself on the team. I mean, let me make that known. He playing basketball. He playing volleyball. I'm just sitting here looking around. Is there an eating competition so that this guy can compete too? I'm sure you go for it. So we have our national budget up to 700 million for the first time. And it's infested with pork crafted by the CDC government. You will say this is gold mine for the opposition if you look at the numbers. If you look at the allotments, this is gold mine. But then the opposition is literally silent. So Weah does what he does best. Mr. Sharif?
Yeah, so Anthony, during his one of his runs for the presidency, it was Henry Boyma Fambole who said that, who quoted Blaise Compaoré as saying that a soldier not Blaise Compaoré, the late Captain Thomas Sankara has saying, a soldier who has no political orientation is a bandit. It's a potential bandit. To which Dr. Fambule said, a politician who has no political orientation is a potential thief. So George Weah has no sort of political orientation. I mean, what is his ideology? What is the core ideology of George Weah and people around Mr. Weah? When we begin to talk about these things, and you're going to, sooner or later, you're going to see how, viciously the CDC supporters are going to come after me, are going to come after those of us who speak truth to power. I admire George Weah's achievement on the soccer fields of Europe and Africa and different places that he played soccer. The honor and glory that he brought to our nation, that he brought to our continent. I admire all of this. I am one of those who still watch these old clips of Mr. Weah. Mr. Weah is a talent, once in a generation of talent on the field of sports. But that does not translate into governance. he may be, again, the other day I stated, you know, he may be a good person. He may have a good heart, but that doesn't translate.
Mr. Sherry, to be honest, we can beat on we are, as
right?
I would join you and maybe
So,
others to do, right? But we have an opposition. I alerted you about a budget that is before the Senate. And let me give you some numbers here, Mr. Sheriff. In that budget, President Weah, the office of his budget jumped from 412,000 to 5,953,000.
right.
That is nearly 2,000% jump. This is the proper president. The legislature budget jumped from 26 million to 54 million. Elections coming. Where is the opposition? And then for the people here, when they are silent.
Exactly. How many times can we talk about this? You know, I mean, we're beating a dead horse here. I mean, how many times can we talk about this? Where is the opposition? Why aren't they talking about this? Right? They are not talking about it. They are not making issues. So if I were an opposition leader in the Republic of Liberia, I would set up a communication team. I will set up a very strong communication team that's going to communicate every single day from now to October of 2023. Every single day that we get up, I don't care what day of the week it is, there is going to be a press release. There is going to be something I am going to be heard from. I will make myself available to the media. I will come to Focus on Liberia. I will be in all the newspapers. I will write op-eds. Okay. I will encourage my people to write letters to the editors and stuff like that. And by that, what I will be doing is communicating my vision to the Liberian people. There is a lot to do. There is a lot to do. So because George Weah does not take the presidency seriously, so he has time to release music albums. He has time to play a lot of soccer. He has time to sit in a race car to take pictures and stuff and put this stuff and this nonsense on social media. He has time to do all of what you just talked about. And meanwhile, the legislature of the Republic is giving him everything that he's asking for because they've subjugated themselves to the almighty presidency. The legislature is giving him all of this. The judiciary is subservient to the almighty executive. And so this is a dangerous place to be. At this moment in time in Liberian history, at this moment in time, where are we heading with all of this? So you will say, let's go to the alternative. The alternative is the opposition. The opposition has not laid out to me sufficiently every single day what I need to hear. We've talked about a whole host of issues on this show. How many times you've heard, and I'm putting all the opposition leaders together, I don't care, those who are in the CPP and those who are outside of the CPP, because the CPP is not the only opposition. You have others. You probably have 200 political parties, right? It looks like it. Where are they? Where are all those other political parties? Where is Dr. Cassell? Why is he not talking about where is Councilor Tiawan Gongolo, who is a fighter for civil rights? He needs to talk like he has a fire in his belly. I don't want to hear all these docile and limp duck speeches anymore. We need people who have fire in their bellies to start to address the basic needs of the Liberian people. Because what we have now, if this is the standard, the bar has been set so low, okay?
Thank you.
Because of what we have now in the executive mansion. And this is untenable. This is not tenable.
Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. Thank you. Let me come to Mr. Kunney. Mr. Kunney, you do very well when you are writing that laundry list of achievements for your government. So let me give you the budget and use the budget and demonstrate for our audience how the government you support has shown this love, has demonstrated a proper policy to the people. When I look at the budget, the allotments, let's say the legislature, for example, 8 allotment has doubled, but the salary of staffers working at that institution of government did not go up. Some even came down. So talk to me about that.
Asani, the temptation to blame George Weah for every and all things happening in our country is hard to resist. We came on the show to talk about the disintegration in the CPP. Now we are going to budgets, we are going to other things. I will answer your question, but let me go back to the point I made earlier when I kind of like rhetorically, pose the question whether Ure was working for Weah. For all intent and purposes, Ure is a fanatic of Joseph Human Boakai. He has been a fanatic of Boakai since 2017. He has never hidden his support for Boakai. So everything that Ure is doing enjoys the support, the blessing, and the approval of Mr. Boakai. The division in the opposition will continue because that's what Mr. Boakai wants. Mr. Boakai is willing to run away with a fraction of the Liberty Party, the ALP, and go from this, I don't know, that red cup, wherever cup they got. That is the issue that is under discussion here. He's completely silent. He has shown no leadership because everything benefits him. And this is what I find with the current opposition. You have members, not members, you have leaders in the opposition making very, very serious accusations against one another. There was a time in my life where I was a member of a mass movement, and I cannot imagine that during my affiliation with that movement, that either a Dr. Tobana Tipote or a Dr. Famule or a Dr. Sawyer or Dew Mason or Oscar Jayikuya or Gabriel Bacchus Matthews will make these kind of accusations that people are making against one another. Not even privately, but publicly. My brother here alluded to the 1985 coalition just to support some of the points that Wadei and Cummings make here. When political parties come together, they must come together on the basis of shared vision for the country. And the only error you make here, you talk about the courts are being used to manipulate political parties. That's true. But it has been government in the past. The issue we have here is not the government of Liberia carrying opposition leaders to court. It is opposition carrying opposition to court. So in 1985, when the courts were used to muscle the opposition, guess what? Because of that shared national desire by members of those political parties to not let the military transition to civilian leadership, which was the clarion call, members of the Liberian People's Party, members of the United People's Party, they found no problem to join the Liberian Action Party that produced the result of the late Jackson Hebdo that the military cannot thwarted. This is what we call national cause. What we have in the CPP is personal political fights. And I'm telling you, there is no job on the table. That framework document is fighting also. We ain't got Ministry of Finance, we ain't got Ministry of Justice. Can you imagine what that fight would look like if this group is placed in power? And that's the point that you talk about the budget. My little knowledge I know about budget, it tells me that the budget reflects the priority of the country. It reflects the priority of the government. The government is not only the executive. The government is not only the executive. The spending power of the Republic of Liberia is in the legislature. Who controls the legislature? The opposition. Where is Mr. Boakai's leadership on the budget? I mean, this man is being marketed as some kind of magical leader that can solve problems. He promised us that if he returned to Monrovia, he was going to resolve the CPP problem. In fact, his return has worsened the CPP problem. Yet you want us to take him as a leader. Where is the most dominant opposition political party? Where is his voice in parliament? Where is his voice with the opposition lawmakers? Every day we are playing football, but we've started the rubber sport Medina Road. You say we are singing, we expanding the ERWA to Coca-Cola Road. We are dancing, we trying to build the Rawafi Highway. You know, we are. And you know, let me agree. Since cause things like market stores, these things are supposed to be celebrated. I couldn't agree with you more. But if you have our people selling underneath zinc, where they can't even store their food for decades, they sell it underneath zinc, on a sheltered condition. So when our people are subjected to that kind of indignity, and somebody build a market store, guess what? There will be celebration. We're talking about Monrovia. We're still talking about current. We're still talking about running water. So when somebody bring these things online, guess what? There will be celebration. And these are the things we need to take into consideration. The opposition, they fall here apart. They ain't got no plan. Have you seen any road plan, opposition road plan to contract with we are road plan? No. Any plan to contract with we are rural electrification?
We didn't bring road plans. The road plans he got were already there.
No plan.
All right.
The only thing here, the only thing here is that Joseph Yema Boyka wants to be president at all costs. And to do that, it means he will bring all the opposition political parties to do that through his henchman, Benin Ure. That will be done. And the final point I want to make here is not government taking opposition to court. It's opposition taking opposition to court because we got no fish to fry. We will only perform our legal duty if the issue you take the opposition to court for, if it is a criminal matter, then of course the state prosecute the crime. So Georgia, all the CDC now calling opposition leaders to court. We should stop that misinformation. They were doing their thing, nobody bothered them. As you say, our president was singing. They were doing their thing. They took the people, they took themselves to court. So they should be held accountable for that.
Thank you. Folks, we will take a short break. When we come back, our final question will be, is the brand CPP damaged and for good? Our panelists will weigh in, but the phone lines are open for you to call as well. We will be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Well, I'm Anthony here hosting today's edition of Tough Talking Thursday. And before we can go to the phone lines here, my final question to you all is, this CPP brand is a damage beyond repair. Can this brand go to election and be taken serious, given the damage it has done to itself? We will start with Wadei.
Has damage been done to the CPP brand? Absolutely. Is the CPP brand damaged beyond repair? Absolutely not. Look, Anthony, if you look at our entire country, one could apply the same analogy. And my good friend Wilmot just spent the last 15 minutes having me asked a question about CDC's performance, and spent the last 15 minutes talking about opposition wahala, right? That's the norm, right? So instead of It's like, and I'm kind of glad that he did that, because I personally am of the opinion that and I came up with this opinion since around 2019, that the CDC administration was done as far as being able to deliver anything for the Liberian people. And so I tend to not engage in conversations about that, because for me it's futile. You only have conversations when you think that something can come as a result of those conversations. CDC has absolutely nothing for the Liberian people. CDC will not have anything for the Liberian people. You talk about the increase in budget. Of course, the increase in the executive budget has to be there. They got to find money to campaign. They come in campaign with the Liberian poor money. You talk about Anthony is talking about projects that are coming on the road. Come on, guys, we know what this is about. 4 years and you didn't do anything. Now is the time that you think that people are not crazy people, right? They see through this, right? So if you build the stalls and it's something that they need, they will celebrate it. But at the end of the day, you watch what has been happening, right? We can all sit down and talk about what will happen down the line, but what has been the trend in elections in 2020, the elections in last year? What is the trend? How is CDC faring in these elections? That should give you an indicator on whether or not the Liberian people are happy with this. So having said that, I just had to get that out, because
so does it mean that the CPP brand, damage or not, is gonna?
Yes, I'm about to come back to that, but I didn't want to let Anthony escape the question of whether or not CDC's performance was good. Any brand, any brand that has been damaged requires work to reinvigorate it. I want to go back to what I said earlier about the definition of opposition, right? We're not going to box ourselves in to believe that the 4 constituent political parties of the CPP define opposition in Liberia. That's absolutely wrong. There are many other parties. There are many other groups. There are many other individuals. There are civil society organizations. There's so many other facets of opposition. One of the things that we need to work on, regardless of which direction this goes in, one of the things that we need to work on and continue to work on is bringing more people under the tent. Not necessarily under the CPP tent per se, but having people come together, as Cole mentioned earlier, under ideological ideas, ideological thoughts, right? Where do we see this country going? Where do we want the country to go? How have we defined what a changed Liberia looks like? What does that mean? It may mean something to Kawu, it may mean something to Anthony, it may mean something else to Wilmot and Mohammed, right? But we have to find that consolidation of thoughts on what is it that we're trying to get out. I think earlier, when I first started coming on FOL, one of the comments that I made was that a lot of people tend to jump over this section in the CPP framework document that spoke to the reason for the formation being to present an alternative democracy, right? One of the outcomes of the formation of the CPP was the removal of Liberia, of the Weah administration. That was not the primary, that has never been the primary reason for the formation of the CPP. And I think that once we can get back to understanding why the CPP was formed, I think behaviors need to start being shifted to support the primary reasons for why the CPP was formed, and to understand that the CPP was not formed to make any one individual come into this space of presidency. It was formed to present an alternative in our political space. We need to get back to that.
Thank you. Carl, you are a policy person. The CPP, I don't know, I should give it to them, did well by crafting a framework. What it failed to do, It did not craft any document as its plan for Liberia. They will give excuses. Oh, we in a collaboration. We're not together yet. We're working on it. We have not decided our candidate yet. I see that as a big excuse. Looking at that, does the CPP offer Liberia anything serious in terms of plan?
So I have to correct a lot of misinformation that I've heard, mostly from Mr. Kunney. First of all, the idea that there's no plan for Liberia is false. This is a country. This is a government. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time we get a new president. There are some things, some visions, some ideological ways. That getting to the goal might take a different spin because of some ideological differences, but there is a very well mapped out vision for the country that we're still following loosely. We are still stumbling accidentally, still doing some of the things that were planned. So this whole thing about he's fixing the mansion, all of this stuff was planned out. It's been well documented. Vision 2030. This is not new. The Transportation Master Plan. This is not new. The government has a roadmap. Does it need to be tweaked? Maybe. Is it great the way it is? Maybe. The point of leadership is to see, hey, maybe we can change this or tweak this a little bit. But the vision and the plan, the roadmap for the next, 10 years is already clearly laid out. And there's funding actually supposed to be, released at different milestones. So some of this stuff, the idea that everybody has to reinvent the wheel, that needs to be corrected. And to pretend that Mr. Weah just came in and started, plotting out a transportation master plan is absurd. These are things that people worked on for years. So, don't come here making up these things and talking about, the mansion, and he just came out of the blue and decided to fix it. That's not true. He didn't come out of the blue and decide to fix the mansion. I can show you evidence of this, and you just Google it, for God's sakes. I mean, most of these things are available online because it was all, done with the help of USAID, GIZ, and all of these other foreign national conglomerates. ECOWAS has been involved. So you can go on ECOWAS website and see what the plans are for Liberia. So to sit here and make it look like we have to reinvent the wheel, completely wrong. To get to your point about the opposition, they need to be articulating where the current administration is deviating from the plan and even sabotaging the plan, because part of the plan involves some institutions of integrity that were put in place to help us get there. The Anti-Corruption Commission and all of these, the Public Procurement Concessions Commission, that the institutions that were put there for transparency that are being bypassed very cleverly, and not even really cleverly, blatantly, openly being bypassed by the current administration. Another very important thing we talked about last Thursday is the Constitution being a very clear rule. And, this is what this is the book that created Liberia. Without the Constitution, there's no country. But the legislature is in violation of the Constitution. They are one of the greatest violators of the Constitution. And that is where I do agree with Mr. Kunney. But it's because it benefits them to violate the Constitution. All of these people, Mr. Weah, the Supreme Court justices, all of the elected officials take an oath to the Constitution, not to their constituents, not to the citizens, to the Constitution, because we're a country of laws, not men. And therefore, when they do nonsense, like, the threshold bill that we're currently operating under, where there's disproportionate representation, it's unconstitutional. People should be outraged. The opposition should be talking about this. There's a lot of things that we need to look at. What are we supposed to be doing and what are we not doing? So on that point, Sonia, I do agree with you that the opposition is not addressing real issues at all. But I don't necessarily agree that they need to completely reinvent the wheel as far as, what are we going to be doing in the next 10 years? Because a lot of that is already fixed. I think the problem is they're not even, I shouldn't say they don't know, but it seems to me that they don't know because they don't talk about it. You know, for people who understand what the vision is for the country and the milestones we should have met before January 2022, and we haven't met those milestones, this is appalling. This is the stuff we should be talking about. Education milestones, transportation milestones, rule of law. There's so many things that we're not doing that are on the table, that are already documented.
That is true. And, you know, talking about election, there were some reforms that were agreed upon. We are not there yet. And the RIA highway, that was something that was planned way ahead. I remember when the CDC took over.
Coastal highway.
Ellen Johnson Salier. Oh, you
the
just
local road, the coastal highway.
You didn't do it. So that is true. There are some plans.
Mass transportation.
Yeah. So that is true.
We're supposed to have certain milestones with mass transportation, public access, walkability of roads. So part of the transportation master plan is not only for vehicles, but most people in the interior walk on the sides of the roads. There is not even any feeder roads or any way for kids in Banga to walk to school. They got to walk on the main road. You know, you get in the interior, everybody's walking on the roadside because there's no walkability. Walkability means that people should have access to be able to walk from place to place safely. Even in the United States, with all the wealth that they have, I can walk if I would like to. I can leave my home and walk for 5 miles and not worry about getting hit by a car.
Thank you.
This is basic, quality of life issues. These things are documented as part of the plan we're supposed to be working towards. We don't have to reinvent this stuff. So sometimes when I hear these politicians talking, I'm like, come on, this stuff's already on the books. How are we going to get there?
Thank you. Folks, let's do this. We have the callers here. Yeah, please. Let me give you a minute. We got callers that have been waiting.
Look, listen. Call myself, we basically agree on national development plans go from government to government. The point I was making is it is time for the opposition to come and tell us what they will do differently than what we are doing. These are the discussions we need to be having. I mean, I'm not saying that they should reinvent the whole idea of coastal highway. We heard a long time about Ganda Hapa Highway. Even we heard those things during those time. But my point is, the opposition need to come and tell us, this is what should be done. This is what the president is doing. This is what we're going to do differently. That's what we need to be talking. It's not true. Every time we come here, Waka got to be candidate, Cummings will be candidate. We'll be fighting over this one little framework document. The only thing I disagree with her, the repair of the executive mansion, mind you, it was only one room that had a fire. That executive mansion was used for the last 12 years as a corruption cash cow. The mansion was never repaired. The mansion is actually being repaired on a George Weah time. That's why I disagree with her.
Thank you. And Mr. Sheriff, quickly here. If the opposition has a problem, I want to say that problem is now we are at this point. He's doing his best, and his best is like his best as we know it, right? So the opposition is his own plan now. Problem, for what we know it to be. What is it that they are not doing that they're supposed to be doing to make this government to not be looked at by the Liberian people at all? It seems to be the Liberian people are trying to give another look here, given what that has been happening in the opposition community. You are muted.
I mean, we don't know that for sure. I mean, George Weah's best. When you say best, I don't know what you mean by he's trying his best. Because trying his best, I mean, to release songs every week or to go play soccer every day. There are enormous responsibility that comes with running a nation, running a country. And so it baffles me that he even has time in between to do all of the things that he is doing right now. So yes, the opposition could be communicating. And that is why this whole issue of the fights that they're having. That's why that is troubling. It's troubling because, then they don't have time to talk about what we is not doing. So they are busy, again, attacking one another. And one last thing I want to say, Anthony, is that as far as Mr. Cummings is concerned, I mentioned this at the top of the show. In this legal fight, if you will, with Ben-Aur, whether Ben-Aur is being used as a proxy for a major player, an invisible hand in the background, or different invisible hands in the background. He has to come out fighting this as a real politician. He cannot be seen fighting this through, backers, through, lobbyists, stuff like that. So
All right.
it's not gonna be a good look for him. He has to fight this. He said, by his own admission, he said this has made him popular with the Liberian people. So then he has to ride this popularity to its fullest.
Thank you. All right, let's take some calls here. Kesali Double, let's hear you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Steer, and thanks to your guest in studio. I want to make a correction on the allegation about the framework document. One of the studio guests said alleged. It's no longer alleged on the framework document. ANC, the entire leadership of ANC have admitted that there was alteration done to the document. So let's start using the word alleged. Let's start being politically, I don't know how to define it. There was alteration done to the document. That is why we are in court. And by the way, it is funny when I hear people from the supporters of ANC saying that URI is working for the government. It sounds so funny because if the alteration was not made to the document, we wouldn't have been to where we are today in the first place. So how can a URI who is, against the government, who have been speaking the government all along, almost everyone in the CDC have been supporting Cummings all along. Every physician, before the document alteration came about, every physician have been on the side of Cummings. Only when this thing came about. So when the jury become a supporter of George Weah, I'm kind of confused.
Thank you.
So let Ms. Powell start fooling the people and let's discuss the truth and not be telling lies to the people. Thank you.
All right. Let us take this one. Caller with phone number ending in 8180. Let's hear you. Your name and where you're joining us from quickly.
Hey, Anthony, how you doing? This Musa Willis, calling from Pennsylvania.
Let's hear you, Mr. Willis, quickly.
Yeah, our sister who spoke prior to taking the quarters is a very good point. And a lot of time, I think we, our own province, we have the technical know-how, but we put all of the excuses on the politicians so that we can have another mistake. Political activity has stages. The part of the political activity that's ongoing right now is mobilization, recruitment. And after mobilization, recruitment, people go to primary. After primary, then you start the campaign. It is during campaign that you unveil your plans for the country. Right now, we don't even have, most of the political parties don't even have structures around the country. They only have individual faces that we know. We know Arizona Cummings to be from the Coffee War. We know Joseph Bargat to be from Guston, XYZ. So we have that assurance right now. But the next stage would be when they go into the campaign. So we should not be pretending like we don't know the stages of political activity.
All right.
So at this point, for any political party to tell you that we're going to unveil our entire platform, it's not possible because right now people trying to mobilize membership. Most of these political parties trying to mobilize membership, trying to recruit members. So I agree with her. Liberia, you cannot reinvent Liberia. Liberia is a very small country. That is why I'm one of those who frown with continued hosting of conferences to discuss peace, to discuss economic viability, all that.
Thank you.
The documents are already there. The framework are already there. It is just our inability to follow those
plans that people pay money for.
Thank you.
When Ellen came to power, there were a lot of good structures in place.
Thank
You
you.
need to follow them. So I don't want to take all your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear from caller with phone number ending in 0589. Your name and where you joining us from.
Yes, sir. My name is George Ford, calling from Missouri.
Okay.
Thank you for taking my call, and thanks to your panelists. So I just want to ask a rhetorical question. I mean, how do you fight a lawless government? So I'm going for you guys to answer that question before the end of the night. Because one of the panelists make a comment about, Mr. Cummings should not be seen as somebody unleashing his big guns to fight on the PIs. So the question becomes, how do you fight a lawless government?
And do you believe the government is lawless?
Very much so.
How come?
Okay, so the issue with the Nigerian men now, on the court document is we are hiring still working for him until it was a public outcry before we could let the men go. We all know that.
All right, thank you.
Men are still our document, right? And I mean, like I said, we can go through the list and go through the list, but I mean, I can't do that tonight. But the question becomes, how do you fight a lot of government? So the question is the comment repetition is on the line. So why if tomorrow, without international community act being on the justice system, they come tomorrow and say Mr. Cummings is guilty?
Thank you.
How does he fight that can say I'm not guilty? How does he do that?
Thank you. All right, let's hear this caller from, not from where. Let's see, 1411 is the final phone numbers. Let's hear you. Your name.
Good evening, and so this is Jefferson.
All right. Go ahead.
I just want to make two points clear to Cummings in particular. He spoke about the issues that opposition have cried upon. It's not just opposition, but the entire citizen of Nigeria. And the executive mansion that he alleged is just one room that burned. And why the 5 year of the CDC government have not been able to be seated into that executive mansion. So the problem is that the wrong that he saw as CDC policy or CDC government, you cannot go to campaign and say that the left wing are going to do the different, and then the different you still do the worst. So why are they crying and saying 1847 nothing will happen? You saw all the challenges, you saw all the, and yet you still attribute the problem to your failure. So how can you reconcile those things?
Thank you.
We must be able to spend the time and look at the possibility that we can move the country forward instead of blaming everybody every time we cannot do what we do. Thank you very much.
Aliyu Kamara, let's hear you.
Yeah, for the corner code, you got a / then you got to say Aliyu Samba. So you say Aliyu V Kamara / Aliyu V Samba. Well, thank you so much for such a wonderful program. Sometimes when I call this show, I get nervous because there's so many articulate, intelligent people on there, way better than some of us, and, they're struggling to learn how to speak the English language. But thank you for having me. Let me just say this. If you will notice, those people who are supporting Alexander Cummings candidacy, they are very serious in saying that the CPP has not broken. The CPP will hold. They really believe that because they strongly believe that Alexander Cummings is going to be the senator of the CPP. I want to say this before I actually make my point. Let me promise them. Joseph Yumabwake is not going to any convention with Alexander Cummings. Not going to happen. That's one. Number two, Joseph Yumabwake, regardless of their clause that they have in there, that when you leave, you cannot run on whatever means. Joseph Yumabwake is going to run for president in 2023. The third point I wanted to make here is that if they're looking for ways to get Joseph Yumabwake into the fries, he has to come out and make statement. He must talk. Joseph Yumabwake is not going to get involved. But let me just say this. Miss Wadei's name has been synonymous to promotion, to confusion. Since she got some authority in the Liberty Party, this lady entirely has disintegrated that party. She has broken that party entirely. Now the happy political family of the Liberty Party now don't want to see each other. A lot of people think it's Hassan Belede. No, Hassan Belede is just a guy, but he depends on whether it's intellect. So to go forward, everything that is going on is with it. Wadei has destroyed these people, and now her power has reflected on the CPP, and it is breaking the CPP I mean, the CPP has been broken ever since anyway. So we just want to make this thing clear. For anyone to think that, oh, the CPP was now founded to give one person leadership, but at the same time, the CPP was now founded to use one person's popularity to achieve your selfish agenda.
Mr. Kamara?
Cummings will run for president. Yes, sir.
Are you supporting Mr. Barker?
I mean, that is not even a question.
Would that be the reason why you are accusing Wadei of destroying the Liberty Party? And do you have evidence?
The records are there.
Okay.
The records are there.
All right.
The records are there. Prior to her coming to the Liberty Party, the people were having fun. She has destroyed that party, and she is now in the CPP making a statement against Barker. She comes on your show, instead of focusing on the issue, she wants Barker to talk. When they were breaking, she and Musa Zede were breaking the Liberty Party. Why didn't she request that Barker talk? In fact, Musa Zede had a whole press conference stating that Unity Party and Barker had no business in their affairs. Now it is the all-Liberian party.
Thank you.
Versus Alexander Cummings. Why do you guys want Barker involved?
So Numbly is not doing anything. Numbly is not doing anything. DeLon is not doing anything. All other members not doing anything, but just were they doing all the damage, right?
No. Of course, they were peaceful before. She brought the problem.
Thank you.
You hear her from one station to another, all these radical stands, and the records are there. And so it's not something we can debate. The records are there. She's a filmmaker. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, that will do it for our callers here. Now the finger's being pointed at you, Madam Powell. Let hear you. Your response.
So I think I said this before. I don't believe in engaging in conversations that are going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's what he is saying. That is the running thought within the Unity Party and the ALP, and it is what it is. So be it. If that's their belief, that's their belief. That's fine. I'm not gonna, engage that line of conversation because it's complete BS. But I do want to make a clarification to one of the things that he said during his entire diatribe. Right? Mm-hmm. He said that the allegations of alterations to the framework document has been decided that it has happened. That is completely false. Because
that was the first caller. What's his name? Kessley. That was the first caller. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, that caller. Okay, that's completely false. Because if that was the case, we wouldn't be here where we are today. And people need to understand, people walking around and say, oh, alteration, right? Maybe people need to go spend some time and read what the actual complaint is to understand what the definition is that has been provided by the complainant as far as alterations and forgery and whatnot. There's absolutely no one that has admitted to unauthorizedly altering the CPP framework document, and for someone to come out and put that out there, that's completely false.
All right.
I want to make that correction.
Thank you. Well,
Anthony, real quick, if I may,
please.
And I'm not trying to defend Wadei here, but in Liberia, institutional building is a difficult thing. Nothing I have heard from the other side, and I'm talking the Liberty Party. Nothing I have heard from Yambli Conga Lawrence or Darius Dillon has told me that they did not violate their own party's constitution. They admitted that they didn't pay their dues. Yambli Conga Lawrence admitted she didn't pay dues, but didn't say why she didn't pay dues, but claimed that she was helping to build, they were helping to build party, pay bills in some of the counties, right? All these flimsy excuses. And one more, if she, as the party leader at the time, went on national radio and television to say that she has now dissolved the Constitution, and we're going back to status quo ante. That is tantamount to a constitutional coup d'etat. So you don't do that. Where in the world you do this? So listen, I'm not a member of the Liberty Party, right? I'm just saying, as an outsider looking in, looking at some of the things that go on around and in the Liberty Party, and to that call and what the caller just said, I mean, some of these things are false. But it is in Liberia someone can come out and say something to someone else. They can accuse you without any evidence. When you ask them, they say, well, but the records are there. The records are there. He didn't say where the records were. So she's destructive. The records are there. I mean, we had a guest on this show the other day, someone who claimed to be an attorney, accused me. Right?
Thank you, Sheriff.
Again, this is Liberia, right? This is Liberia.
Time is not in our favor, so we will use our Tabata section to close. So let's roll in our, It's too late, baby, but I don't need your Tabata. Baby, oh, your Tabata. I'm gonna go away, your Tabata. My baby, oh, I don't need your Tabata. My baby, oh, baby. All right, so we will be closing with the Tabata section today. I think we all have our Tabata to share. Mr. Kunney, if anything you want to share before your Tabata section, or your Tabata contribution, then go ahead, and the Tabata will be closing us today.
So is the closing statement right?
Yeah, so Tabata will close us today because of time.
Okay, well, clearly what is emerging is the disintegration of the opposition. They have no agenda, they have no plans. It is all a fight for power, and that's all we're gonna have. I mean, the CPP, as I indicated here, the CPP will exist after this, but the question will be, what kind of CPP? All of them going to break apart. There will be this dash to incorporate other political parties, and the CPP will be CPP with Alexander Cummings as its leader, and then we have the CUP with other parties. And the good thing is, my party, the CDC, will not be a spectator in this drama. We are a political party too. We are following the political development. And so we will not be a spectator in the unfolding political development. It will be a political malfeasance for anybody to expect a ruling political party to be a spectator when political events are unfolding in the country. So we look forward to that. Despite all of the challenges in this country, the government is doing their best. As I indicated here, road constructions all over the country, whether it is in Lima, whether it is in Cape Mount, whether it is in Monserrado County. In fact, they open new community roads here in the rehab area, EFW road area. So all of these things are continuing. The intelligentsia bill, our city with no recreational facilities will soon be open in the Monrovia area so that at least people can go to the park and jog and other things. The intelligentsia didn't see the need for people to do that. So the Liberian people are looking at all of these things. And so my tabata for the day, for the week, is the fact that for the opposition to take themselves to the very judiciary that they've been decrying, they took themselves there, to take themselves to court, and then get the audacity to blame the government of using the court to muscle the opposition. I think it is not only a tabata, it is a disgraceful tabata. Disgraceful tabata.
Thank you. But your closing and tabata.
Well, I think I had another tabata, but I think I'm gonna go with this one.
Okay.
The biggest tabata is the student who is taking an exam and has the responsibility to study for that exam and pass that exam, worrying about the person who not even in school and who not even going to the class to go to the exam, and worrying about what that person doing. Mr. Kunney, my good friend, brother, CDC is the current administration who has proven that it has zero to offer it like people. Y'all go try and work on that one for the next 2 years. Instead of worrying about engineering within the opposition. Does opposition have challenges? Absolutely. But nowhere near the challenges that y'all know y'all have, and that's why you guys have to be engineering things. Now, closing remarks. You know, I've heard these innuendos being thrown around about me being some kind of mastermind and some kind of magician and whatever within the Liberty Party that is doing XYZ. And I will say this. The Liberty Party as an institution will be built. There are people, many people, who see what's happening and are supportive of it. And there are those who are not supportive of it. It is for one reason and one reason alone. Because these changes that are occurring do not meet their personal agendas. I am not in Liberty Party to push forward anybody's personal agenda. I'm in Liberty Party to help build the institution, to help build the organization. The Constitution is our guiding principle. And we will use that Constitution to make every single decision in the Liberty Party, regardless of whether or not the Unity Party people or Ambassador Boyka's supporters like it. It's not for them to like. It's not their party. We'll sort your issues out in your own party. But Liberty Party will abide by its Constitution. And if you want to call that destruction of the party, then so be it. But I can guarantee you that Liberty Party will come out the winners in this.
Mr. Sharif, you're closing in Tabata.
Yeah, so perhaps I'll start with the Tabata section first. And this week, the African Cup of Nations opened in Cameroon, and Mali versus Tunisia. So the Malians were leading 1-0, and in the 85th minute, the referee looked at his time, looked at his watch, and blew the whistle. And the Tunisians are like, what? Everybody's like, what is going on? So he runs to the sideline, and everybody's to the sideline. He looks at it, and he calls them back again. So he calls the players back again. It should be regular time is 90 minutes. And then they will usually add like 4 or 5 minutes. So at the very least, they have 5 minutes to go. So he called everybody back again, and they started to play. And then the same referee, in the 89th minute, when the other team was struggling, when the Tunisians were trying to come back, in the 89th minute, he finally blew his whistle. So there was still time. So these guys, the Tunisians, were outraged. And despite the outrage, he didn't go anywhere to consult anybody. He didn't change his mind. The players just walk off the field. It was, some sort of mini chaos. So that's my Tabata. And that underscores the things that we do as Africans. And that brings me to my point. So if you realize that you've made a mistake, right, whether in your personal life, whether in your political life, there's always a room to come back and make amends. Look, as a nation, Liberia needs to make amends. There have been a lot of errors. But what we hear and what you heard from Mr. Kunney and apologists of the administration in Monrovia is this is the best thing that has ever happened to Liberia. Someone says, where is, the best Liberian that has ever lived? This is how arrogant we are as a people. You hear Mr. Kunney time and time and again, his, consistent attack on the so-called intelligentsia. And yet, Mr. Kunney is part of this elitist intelligentsia class, of which George Weah is trying to enroll. George Weah is trying to be part of the intelligentsia class. And because he's finding it difficult to get into this so-called class, so the attack from his people around him is that those people don't like us. So now we've come at a point in our national existence that we must now condemn education, that everything intellectual is bad. This is how low we've come. When in America, those things are celebrated. In Europe, achievement is celebrated. Education is celebrated. But in Liberia, it is a crime to be educated. It is a crime to be a university student. This is unacceptable. Liberian people must be outraged to hear some of these things. It is despicable as a nation. We cannot accept this. I cannot in good conscience accept this. I have to condemn this. Liberian people have to condemn this. It's unacceptable.
Thank you. And thank you. My Tabata is the fact that we have this opposition community that does not know what it's all about, that sees a budget that is not in the interest of the people except for those who are in government, and says nothing and does not even educate its members about how bad this budget is. And they are just sitting there fighting that Ellis Cummings must be president at all costs, or Joseph Boakai must be president at all costs. And you have constituent members of the CPP fighting their own wars within for these two men who are not even members of their party. That is the greatest Tabata that I have come to see in my entire life following politics. And also, we have a Solicitor General who was caught on audio tape talking about virgin hairs for ritualistic purposes. And we have a president who heard that and did nothing. And out of a sudden, this Solicitor General is our government's lawyer, trying to be the one representing government in a political case that is in court. This is a disgrace to our country. We don't have a leader who can take action on individuals who have done nothing other than to disgrace our country. That is another Tabata that I have come to see. I hope this Solicitor General will go away, and it will go away soon. But unfortunately, the president is playing football, and he's playing basketball, and I hope he can go to the eating competition. Folks, this is how we'll come to the end of this edition of Tough Talking Thursday. I'm Anthony Sie. I was filling in for Dennis Jad today. Until we see you again for another section of Tough Talking Thursday, the song says, we are all Liberians, and bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our